Hello everyone. Let's look how we can actually use Rust to build a UI and use that or render that UI through a Chrome extension. So to do that, I'm going to use Rust and a Rust framework called as Leptos. I don't know how you spell it, but I'm just calling it as Leptos or Leptos, whatever. So I'm just going to use the client-side rendering for it, which actually uses trunk. It's kind of like a bundle, like read and webpack, but trunk is basically for Rust. So here's what I'm going to do. I have a folder that's I'm going to create a web application. So before doing that, I'm just going to go to this particular tutorial and then copy these commands and then run them so that I have trunk installed. And the prerequisite here is that you need to have Rust installed. So I'm using WSL, that is Windows Subsystem for Linux. For the development, you can actually use any other OS. You can go to Google and see how you can actually install Rust. And apart from that, post that, you can actually start working on this particular project, or you can come to this particular timestamp and start following the tutorial so that you can build the UI using Rust. So the first command that I've done is basically to install trunk. So that is what I've done, and I'm going to copy this command but rename my project into something that is useful for me. So I'm going to name it as Chrome extension UI for now. So it basically creates a Rust application with the name as Chrome extension UI. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate to Chrome extension UI, and I'm going to add Leptos or Leptos as my dependency project. So with client-side rendering features enabled. So once you hit, it basically creates or adds a dependency, and you will also need to add WASM runtime so that we can actually compile this application, which can be run in the browser. So I've already installed it, but I would suggest you to install it so that you have it up and running. Now I'm going to open this project using Visual Studio Code. I'm going to use Command-Shift-P. Since I'm using WSL, I'm going to go and open this project here. So this is basically the structure of the project. You have an SRC folder, a target folder, and inside the SRC you have main.rs file, which is basically a Rust file where main function is defined. So I also have Rust plugin installed. So the Rust analyzer, so that it highlights the syntax errors. That's it. And Rust language support for Visual Studio. So that's it. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to follow the tutorial here. These are the initial steps that I'm going to follow, which kind of becomes like a template for us to start working on our project. So I'm going to create an index.html file at the root of the project. So I'm going to paste the content, so I now have index.html. I'm also going to copy this hello world code. Just going to remove this. I'm just going to add this here. So what this does is basically render this text within a p tag using this index.html file under the body tag. So now, how do I compile this, or how do I render this in the browser? So you can use trunk surf to do it. You can also pass open, so that whenever the compilation is completed, if you're using Windows, it is going to open the browser. Since I'm actually using WSL, I can't seem to get it work. So all I'm going to do is just hit trunk surf. So what it is going to do now is going to compile this application, and it is going to give you an output that the compilation is complete, and it will give you the IP with along with the port in which it is actually accessible. So let's just wait for it to get completed. Just going to do it this way, or maybe even better, this way. I don't like this particular UI, but I'm just going to go with it. So it is running on localhost 8080. So if I open localhost 8080, I should see my application here. Now let's try to understand. Since we are trying to build this UI in a Chrome extension, I would specifically want it to render within an HTML that Chrome extension provides through a page called as pop-up. So in a pop-up, you will basically have a body tag, and then you would want to render it within that body tag. So what I'm going to do now is going to change the code in a way. What I'm going to do in the next set of videos is actually change the code in a way that I can render this particular application within a div. Maybe I could just do it this way. I could have a div tag, an ID as I will do, or even better, I could just name it as. So let's see how we can do this on the next